And let's be honest, let's get something out of the way before we start. Tryouts, there's politics involved at high levels. Like that's just the reality.
And I think that even growing up myself, I've talked about this before, that I was always kind of the bubble kid, right? So I was always first year tier 2, then second year tier 1, and then you'd hear, oh, you're close to making the team, and I don't know, something happened, blah blah blah, and then you kind of just you take that politics as almost a way out. Sometimes I know maybe I did, where I always try to tell kids that make sure that you're good enough where the politics don't come into play, right? And when you're the bubble kid, you're putting yourself at the mercy of maybe Joe's dad knows Tim's dad a little better than your dad knows Tim's dad, and you never know, right? These things do go on everywhere in the hockey world, and you get messages from all over the place saying, what about politics? What about politics? And yeah, these things happen, but I think it's important to make sure that you're not there. You're a step above, and you're not going to be cut because you're the bubble boy and stuff like that. So I think that's one thing to factor in when you're looking at tryouts and you're looking at your summer training, and you're looking at the work that you're putting in to make sure you're there and you're on that level.
And I think you have to keep in mind too that there's a balance, there's a tipping point between politics and accountability, right? For who you are as a player, kind of like what you're saying is be better, like make it so that there's no distinction. But one thing that I think is often overlooked is it's an opinion.
For sure.
Right? If you and I sit down, and we haven't talked about this before, but if Matt and I sit down right now and we have to evaluate and pick a team, and I always say this, the top's really easy to figure out. So is the bottom, right? The guys that don't belong, it's easy to figure out, right? So the tough part is that sandwich, that meat in between. That's the tough part, because we may look at 3 players and only have 2 spots left, and you go, well, it's got to be this guy, and I go, you're out of your mind. It's got to be this guy and this guy, right? Because maybe I value skating, right? For me, like I'm a skating guy too, right? So my value that I place on skating is maybe higher than what yours is, and I'm just using that as an example. But it's my opinion. It's not that I'm 100% right. It's I have to look at it and go, what's my teaching style? What am I able to give this player, and where can I develop him? And so for me, if I think he's got a good level, a solid foundation in skating, I'm more excited about that than me having to teach a kid basics and get him up to speed, right? Because I think that's a longer process, and not that you have to take the short view on everything when you're putting a team together, but if the majority of your team is at one level, a high level, if let's just call it a 7 out of 10 average skater on your team, it's really hard to incorporate a 3 out of 10 skater into that, even though maybe he's a better hockey player.